Opening of the Hong Kong market on May 31st. These are the most important data to pay attention to on the evolution of this asset. Opening day unchanged for the Hang Seng, Hong Kong, which starts on Tuesday, May 31st with a variation of 0.08%, up to 21,106.41 points, after opening. As for the changes of this day, compared to previous days, the Hang Seng, Hong Kong, slows with the streak of market quotes of the last two sessions. In the last 7 days, the Hang Seng, Hong Kong, registered an increase of 4.94%. Despite this, in annual terms, it still maintains a decrease of 25.71%. The Hang Seng, Hong Kong, is 15.46% below its peak so far this year, 24,965.55 points, and 14.61% above its current year's minimum rating, 18,415.08 points. What is a stock index and what is it for? A stock index is an indicator that shows how the price of a set of assets is modified, for which it collects data from several companies or sectors of a market fragment. These indicators are mainly used by the stock exchanges of different countries of the world, and each of them can be integrated by firms with specific characteristics such as having a similar market capitalization or belonging to the same type of industry. Also, there are some indices that only consider a fist of shares to determine their value, or others that consider hundreds of shares. Stock market indices serve as an indicator of confidence in the stock market, business confidence, the health of the national and global economy, and the return on investments in shares of an entity. If investors don't have confidence, stock prices tend to fall. They also work to measure the performance of an asset manager and allow investors to have comparisons between return and risk, measure the opportunities of a financial asset, or create portfolios. Such indicators began to be used in the late 19th century after the journalist Charles H. Dow analyzed in detail how the company's shares tended to rise or fall together in price, so created two indices, one containing the 20 most important railway companies, as it was the most important industry of the time, as well as 12 shares of other types of business. Currently in our economy there are various indices, and they can be grouped according to their geographical location, the sectors, the size of the companies, or even the type of asset. For example, the US Nasdaq index is composed of the 100 largest companies largely related to technologies such as Apple, AAPL, Microsoft, MSFT, Amazon, AMZN, Facebook, FB, Alphabet, Geogen, Tesla, TSLA, NVIDIA, NVDA, PayPal, PayPal, Comcast, CMCSA, Adobe, ADB. How to read an index. Each stock index has its own method of calculation, but the main component is the market capitalization of each company that integrates it. This is taken out by multiplying the day's value of the share on the relevant stock exchange by the total number of shares in circulation on the market. Companies on the stock exchange are required to present a balance sheet of their composition. The report should be disseminated every 3 to 6 months, as the case may be. Reading a stock index also requires taking care of its modifications over time. Current indices always open with a fixed value based on stock prices at their starting date, but not all follow this method. Therefore, it can be misleading. If one index increases 500 points in one day, while another only adds 20, it might seem that the first had a better profitability. However, if the first started the day at 30,000 points and the other at 300, it can be assumed that, in percentage terms, the gains for the second were more remarkable. What are the main stock market indices? Among the major U.S. stock indices is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, better known as Dow Jones, made up of 30 companies. The S&P 500, comprising 500 of the largest companies on the New York Stock Exchange. Finally, we must not forget the Nasdaq 100, which brings together 100 of the largest non-financial firms. On the other hand, the most prominent indices in Europe are the Eurostoxx 50, which covers the 50 largest companies in the Eurozone. In addition, the DAX 30, the main German index containing the most outstanding companies on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, the FTSE 100 on the London Stock Exchange, the CAC 40 on the Paris Stock Exchange, and the IBEX 35 on the Spanish stock exchange. On the Asian continent, we have the Nikkei 225, composed of the 225 most important companies in the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Also, the SSE Composite Index is seen as the most solid in China, formed by the most relevant companies of the Shanghai Stock Exchange. Similarly, mention should be made of the Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong and the Kospi in South Korea. As far as the Latin American region is concerned, there is the CPI, which contains the 35 most prestigious firms of the Mexican Stock Exchange, BMV. At least a third of them are part of the estate of the tycoon Carlos Slim. Another is the Bovespa, composed of the 50 most important companies of the Stock Exchange of Sao Paulo, the Merval of Argentina, the IPSA of Chile, the MSCI Colcap of Colombia, the IBC of Caracas, conformed by 6 companies of Venezuela. Finally, there are other types of global stock indices such as the MSCI Latin America, which includes the 137 most important companies in Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru. Similarly, there is the MSCI World, which includes 1,600 companies from 23 developed countries, the MSCI Emerging Markets, composed of more than 800 companies from developing countries, and the S&P Global 100, made up of the 100 most powerful multinational firms in the world.